This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. We've got another banger lined up in the pipe today. Can't wait to welcome Cris ORASANU to the podcast, and he is from Naratix. Welcome, Cris.
Thanks, Jason, for the invite. You nailed the pronunciation of my name. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I had to ask before we went into record mode. I had to ask to make sure I didn't butcher your name. I always try to be respectful of people's names because, man, it's easy to get them wrong sometimes. And especially this English-speaking tongue, which doesn't always make the right sounds. So,
don't worry about it. Romanians have a tough time pronouncing it as well. And they have an even tougher time spelling it out whenever it comes to writing it down. Yeah, it's a weird name even for Romania.
Okay, good. I'm glad that I got it right straight out of the gate. And you're the founder of Naratix. And what's on the tin? I've never worked with Naratix before, but what's on the tin? It says AI solutions for e-commerce. I have lots of things running through my head when I read that and when I check out your website. But before we dig into that, before we dig into what Naratix does and how it came to be, how did you get to be in this e-commerce space? You seem like you come from a mix of product, tech, entrepreneurship. You've got quite a background, and so nothing in there would automatically lead me to believe that you were going to become the AI mechanic.
Quite a checkered past, I gotta tell you. Yeah, so it's a long story. I'm gonna try to keep it brief. So at my core, you called it. I'm a product guy. So I used to be in cybersecurity. I used to work on some of the world's leading VPN solutions, consumer VPN solutions, right? I was doing M&A for a large group out of London. We bought companies from 9 million all the way to 970 million, right? That was running these products. Now, when the pandemic hit, I found myself stuck in my apartment with the wife and a brand new baby, and we were arguing which one of us could take the baby out on the balconies, right? And I never used to go out on the balcony like ever, right? And we're spending so much time just locked up indoors, not getting any fresh air, and I find myself doing quite a bit of online shopping. I'm personally not a shopper, right? I actually hate shopping for clothes forever. I always dress in black. I hate going to malls, so that's just not my thing. Right, but here I am during the COVID days, and I'm buying a bunch of stuff online that I don't really need, just gadgets, gizmos, whatever, right? And just, I guess, for the therapeutic effects, or just have something to do, just browse for stuff outside of social media, right? That comes with this idea that, hey, but I'm wondering what's going on with all of the shops who are normally in malls, all of the big brands who are normally in malls from Germany, Italy, France, right? Who now they have thousands of employees on payroll, but all of the malls are shut down. Are they online? So I started doing a little bit of digging, and they weren't. Like a whole bunch of them weren't. So I figured, right, unfortunately, these guys right now, they have a huge issue in the sense that they have huge overheads. They still want to maintain their people, and they want to keep going, but they're not making revenue. And that's not something that's a local problem, let's say Romania or Hungary, but it's across the board in Europe. So what can we do? Together with my team, I've worked with them for quite a bit. We reached out to some of these brands just to test out a couple of ideas. And our value proposition, if you will, was quite simple to them. Look, we're going to do everything we can to get you guys online in a couple of weeks. It's not going to be the perfect store. It's not going to be the best shop, but you will be online and you can start generating revenues. It's just going to be the 0 to 1 move. And from this point on, you can start developing the digital department and do a whole bunch of things. And a whole bunch of brands loved it. Right? My thinking, of course, wasn't that, hey, we're going to be some good Samaritans and we're going to do this just tiny projects for large brands. But our thinking was, this is a great opportunity to start tapping into innovation budgets and really start doing some really innovative stuff in Europe. We were thinking drone delivery. We were thinking like warehouse automation solutions. We were thinking putting together in time, of course, some sort of a solution, our holy grail, if you will, would be to get the cohort of one system in place, meaning that when I'm going to the website, the entire interface, the gallery, the titles, the descriptions, the attributes, how I'm searching for stuff, chatting to the website, everything is tailored to me and me alone, right? And whenever Jason goes on to the same website, completely different experience, right? This was our mindset. And we start working, we fly out to these guys, we meet with them, we do a whole bunch of these really quick websites. We've put people on, can we name providers? Does it matter? Or
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So we've put people on all kinds of platforms. We did Shopify, we did Shopper, we did Vitex, if you will, a whole bunch of stuff, right? just as long as we had the ability of moving really fast, right? So
effectively, almost like agency services.
if you will. Where we got stuck, and something that I really couldn't believe was truly happening in 2020, 2021 was, hey, these guys aren't digital at all, or they're incredibly low on the digital skill. I'll give you an example. We had a brand that was offloading merchandise off the trucks. They were just plugging it whatever in the warehouse, but they had no product data whatsoever. And I really mean no product data. They had really high expensive merchandise, and I'm talking about small items but with high value, like in the thousands of dollars jewelry, if you can believe it, right? And they had bags with all of this stuff, and it wasn't labeled. They had no codes, no photos, no provenience, it was really weird, right? So then I figured, all right, we're smart people. Let's fix this problem. So again, I'm a product guy. I hate doing agency work, but in this case, I was forced in that space. So let's hire some people. Let's get content writers, and they're going to take product by product and start documenting stuff. Let's get the photo booth, the photo labs, the large ones, and with the mannequins, those really expensive solutions. Let's get things going. But nothing was working because the process was way too low. And then I found out that it's really hard to hire content writers, especially when you try to do it localized. It's just as hard as finding pickers for the warehouses. They don't live in the large cities. You have to get them from outside of the city, 40 kilometers away, because those are the guys who usually end up or staying in the jobs for longer periods of time. So everything was really rudimentary and difficult. And I got so fed up and angry with this problem. And we've been at it for a couple of years, and nothing is working. Nothing is working. We're losing money left and right? We see that we're nowhere near closer to our end goal. And just as we're thinking and let's just fold everything, it doesn't make any sense for us to continue. Nobody's passionate. We're not passionate about this stuff, doing this stuff by hand. It's mission impossible. Let's leave it at that. We're defeated, and that's it. We were there. These were the discussions we were having in our team, right? And then magic happens. And when I say magic happens, GPT 3.5, the Lord and Savior, gets birth. And we're checking it out. We're technology guys. We're all technical. We're all former developers ourselves. Hey, this is nifty. Hey, this is actually cool, the capacities. So let's try to do some descriptions. And we start working with it. And they're not great, really not great, but they're not terrible either. They're slightly less below average quality than what we would be getting from humans. But there's mistakes, there's hallucinations, there's problems with the language, with the localization, a whole bunch of stuff. But at least it got us onto this track, right? Even here, I like to say that we've made every mistake in the book, and we've even invented a few mistakes that nobody did before us.
And survived them all.
Almost, close to, almost, right? Yeah, so we end up starting to use LLMs, not just GPT, right? We saw that there's a huge hallucination problem that we can't really address from the prompt layer, if you will, or from the data layer, and that we need some sort of checks and balances in place. So what we ended up doing was we started grabbing data off of websites in order to train our own model on how to do this stuff, right? Millions and millions of products in multiple languages in order to learn how to do localization. I'll give you an example. So let's take a jewelry website that has a presence in Canada, in France, and in Belgium. All of them French language, vastly different content, right? Just to figure out how to do localization, right? So and we keep at it and we figure out, so we can't really rely on LLMs. No, doesn't matter if it's our own model or any other model, GPT-4, Llama, Mistral, doesn't matter. But there is something with this architecture that we can actually use in order to mitigate this risk of hallucinations and whatnot. So what we ended up putting together, step by step and fail after fail, it was this multi-agent. This sounds like a mouthful, but I have no better way of describing the technology behind it. So it's a multi-model, Llama, Mistral, whatever, multi-agent type of architecture. So the way it's working is, let's say I'm starting a piece of content, the product description with one engine, let's say GPT 4.0, right? And I give it the data set from the original product, does something with it, comes up with a description, that then should be scored and analyzed. That gets sent to our own model. That model checks the output of the GPT against the original data set that we consider to be the point of truth, the source of truth coming from the client. Any sort of deviations are marked. Then that information that becomes a payload that gets sent to a different model, let's say Mistral or Claude or something else, right? So it's this back and forth between the machines until something is good enough to pass the validator, usually at least 8 validation steps. And what comes out on the other end is a mix between multiple models that sort of maintains coherence and consistency across the board. And this is what enables us, for example, one huge problem that really messed with my head quite a lot. I'm sorry, I'm passionate about this. But something that really messed with my head was, so let's say that I have 50,000 products, 50,000 SKUs, right? I want my clients to be able to know just by looking at the text that are in my shop, whether they're on a shoe page, or they're on a skirt page, or they're on a beauty page. I want them to know it's my brand behind it.
So stylistically, and the voice, and the tone, and the attitude, you want it to be consistent.
Bingo. How can you accomplish that? So this is the multi-step process, basically just slowing down the thinking of the machines more or less, giving them more time to compute and to rationalize, and having all of these checks and balances in place, right? That enables us to obtain pretty much consistency and predictability out of really predictable machines, right? Because if I ask GPT, I'm sure you had this experience. If you work with GPT or any other LLM, you're talking to it now, and it feels like you're talking to a PhD. This is, my God, this is incredible. Half an hour later, same set of prompts. It feels like you're talking to
Sounds like you're talking to an idiot.
Bingo, right? So it's really hard to do that. It's even worse if you try to do that over API. Mission impossible, right? And then what happens, because all of these models, they're unstable, they have peaks of usage when they're becoming hard to use, and then at night, usually you can use them slightly better, right? So how do you balance this out? Because if I need to do like 1 million products, and we've been in that case, if I need to process 1 million products, how the hell am I gonna, bingo, right? So that's why we use a whole bunch of different LLMs. We're at 13 models right now. We add a new model every month. We don't need as many models, but it makes sense from a security point of view, from a sustainability point of view, because I want to make sure that if GPT falls today, my outputs will be consistent. Nothing will change for me and my clients. So that's how I ended up here. So that's the birth of the first robot. That we call them robots, these automations, right? We call them robots. We call her Nara. Nara, she's the content writer. She ensures consistency across the board. She can do 50,000 products in about 6 minutes or so, something like that, consistently, right? We have very even manual review processes for enterprise, where you just click next, approve, you disapprove, you regenerate, you modify a single sentence, you add a dot or a comma or anything. The system is learning from you, from your preferences. This is how you like to express yourself. So it's always learning from every single interaction it has, right? So that's Nara. Then we run into the problem, but what happens if I don't have any sort of product data? How are you gonna compose a description just based off of the EAN or the name? How is that gonna work? So then, of course, when we started training the models, I told you that we started looking into websites and bringing all of these data that we can analyze and score and figure out, right? So we're pretty good at finding stuff online. What if we were to use some unique identifiers? Let's use a combination of the EAN, the unique barcode.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
That's a huge problem because there is often old data or duplicated data. So for one EAN code, I could find this glass, and for another, for the same, I could find a shoe, right? Or something like that. So there's cases and cases. So then we brought in, let's take some names or some attributes and use this sort of matching. And then if I'm finding a product let's say 20 websites across the world, then I can bring that public data, let's be clear, public data into one place in order to analyze it. And if out of 20 websites, 18 are telling me that is a glass,
then it's probably a glass.
And then I'm checking out the attributes between the 18 that said it's a glass, and I'm bringing them all together, and I'm trying to normalize it, because on one website this is going to say the color black, on another website it's going to say the color black but in Romanian, right? So I'm normalizing this across the board. And then we figure, all right, so we actually can bring ingredients, materials, shapes. We can extract data from pictures, like the styling, shape, and whatever, right? There's so much data around just waiting for us. So then we figure, all right, so we have this dynamo, let's call them the attribute enricher, which is a bot. It also works with the orchestrator between all of the LLMs in order to normalize, analyze, and ensure data accuracy. And then we figured, all right, so now what we have is you just give us like bits and pieces of information and we'll fully document your product page. So we have the attributes in one table. We can then use those attributes in order to generate unique content. All right, now we're getting somewhere, right? So that's when we figure out, all right, so it might not be perfect across the board. So if I have to do like a few million products, maybe I'm gonna get a couple of errors. But in terms of comparing that to the human output, incredibly
There's no
better.
comparison.
But then we say, all right, so is it fixed now? Is it actually fixed? And we were really scared. The system behind was a bloody mess, man. It was 2 years worth of hard work with us, the developers. We're 6 founders plus an agency of developers, right? And we're like, oh, I have no clue. So we need to show this to some other people, because as a product guy, I know that I'm never the audience. What I like means nothing for anybody.
The market, the market is all that matters.
So I started, let's bring in some people that we don't know, that have no good or ill feelings towards us, right? So we brought a few owners of very large brands in Romania, in Hungary, in Bulgaria, and just, look, we've done this, we're going to show you a quick test, and we're just going to show you the output in an Excel, because we have no interface, no nothing, right? First guy we showed this to was like, you know, the meme with the credit card was like, I need this right now, I have 55,000 products, plus the SKUs, so we're gonna get it. I want unique everything for every single SKU. I want this right now. But here's the thing. I don't want to wait for any developers. I don't care about your API. I don't care about your developer mindset or anything like that. My people, my departments, my marketing department is working with agencies. We export from the site, send it to the agency, they do the SEO or whatever, they give it back to us, we import to the site. That's what I want. We're like, yes sir, sure, we're gonna do that. Yeah, that's the birth of Naratix pretty much. And we launched it so the first demo, that first Excel demo happened mid-December last year, so we've been out for about seven months now, something like that.
I love it. I love the passion behind this. The challenge is very clear, right? The challenge is very clear for brands that have large and varied catalogs, particularly if they're not a manufacturer. If they're a manufacturer, usually they've got more raw data for you to work with, and then you can enrich from there, and you can create a narrative around the product. And so if it's a manufacturer, maybe they've only got structured data. Okay, here's the 20 attributes of this product. Maybe here's the dimensions. Maybe here's the material, whatever it might be. Then you can craft a narrative description out of that makes sense to a human being, right?
Sorry, I just want to. So
you go.
So the way it's working right now, so the product has matured 100-fold ever since that first demo. So I'll just give you like a brief example. So we don't only have these 2 robots, we have actually 5 robots. We have the copywriter, we have the attribute enricher, then we have a chatbot which offers consultancy, like product selection, covers the full page. It's a new way of shopping pretty much. Then we have a recommendation engine, and we also have something for social media. Right now, we're only, we're live with the first 2, and they are open to the public. The third one, the chatbot, is in beta with a few certain clients, and we're going to keep it in beta for maybe a couple of months before releasing it into the world. That being said, I'll just give you an example of the flow we have right now with Nara, the copywriter. So let's say that you're bringing over, you give me 5 products, 5 t-shirts, right? I don't care, you're an own brand, you're a distributor, doesn't matter. I have 5 products from you, and it's some sort of data. The moment those products hit Nara, what she will do is she will look into the photos, she'll look into the title, she'll look into the description, the attributes, and even keywords if you have them. Based on this information, so she will, what we call abstractization layer, right? She will abstractize everything from that data, and based on that, she will start pulling what we call buyer personas. So for one t-shirt, you can have, I buy the t-shirt for myself, male, 35 years old, living in the city, whatever. She'll extract demographics, psychographics, and engagement and motivation for each and every buyer type, whether it's a gift, whether it's a whatever, right? Let's say that I have 20 different buyers for that one t-shirt. For the multiple of the buyers, for the entire group of buyers, she will then start ranking each and every attribute. What's most relevant about this t-shirt? Normally, it's usually for a t-shirt. For example, it's first the size, whether it fits me or not. Then it's the style, color. Then it's print or not, and then it's material, and then it's source. Because that becomes more and more. Is it sustainable source? Is it made out of plastic or whatever? Right? So it ranks the attributes based on how relevant they are to the group of buyers, right? And then and only then it starts putting together a description where it takes your brand tone of voice. If I want to do a target, if I want to target a particular customer persona, let's say the gift giver or the gift shopper, right? She'll collapse the entire multiples of buyer personas into just the one I've named, and then she will restructure, recalculate the relevancy rating for each and every attribute, and then do the description. You can even tie a description based on a surrounding event, around Christmas, Easter, back to school, whatever.
Valentine's Day, whatever.
Yeah. and you do the language, the length. Our output is fully HTML, and if we have keywords, so if your brand is working with an agency and they have keywords and they give you keywords, then we're going to use those keywords and not change them at all and mark them as H2, H3 titles. We will use them as part of the context we will create. I'll give you an example of stuff that works just out of the box, no configuration or nothing. So we were asked by one of the leading brands of mobile phones in the region to do a description, and one of the phones had a picture of a game as part of the photo gallery, right? Because Nara saw that, based on all of the prior training and the data we fed it into it, just out of the box, it created a whole new section within the description, a title about the gaming, the phone's gaming abilities, something,
wow.
Right? Slap the picture with the game, and then in the body, in the paragraph, started naming that processor with that battery, whatever long gaming sessions that are just, it's incredible. That's it.
Just from the photo.
I'm just really passionate because it's really cool, because what I've always wanted, as I told you, our obsession in the beginning was, man, the coolest thing that we could ever build is a cohort of one type of system that changes and shifts based on whoever's looking, based on the audience, right? So we're getting closer and closer to that. That's it.
I'm so impressed. There's so much to unpick here. I think some of the key areas that make sense to me, if I'm a merchant and I'm coming to you and I have a catalog of 50,000 or 100,000 or 1 million products to enrich, no matter reason, no matter how much resource I assign to this, I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to get there, because the reality is that my target market is going to change in that time.
Sure.
The catalog churn is going to change in that time. The categories that I sell in are going to change over that time. By the time I got through enriching 1 million products, then I would have to go back and re-enrich them all again because there were changes that need to be made.
You've hit the nail on the head, my friend. And it's even more than that, because based on my experience, and I've went through this myself, and I'm seeing it in the eyes of everybody I'm working with, all of the clients. We have over 400 clients and even enterprise clients already. What we're seeing is, when it comes to this sort of product cataloging and the attributes to be used as filters and to this whole thing, do you know how when you have a toothache and you're afraid of going to the dentist, you learn to live with it?
Yes.
It's getting worse and worse, but you learn to live with it.
You become desensitized.
Exactly. You stop caring about it as much. But
yes.
Then what happens? Then Timo comes in. The agents are coming in with super badass offers. Take them for free. Just give me your data, make an account, get the buyer used to buying from me. And it's not only just about the offers, but if you look at Timo's strategy and the engine that they have behind, so they have enrichment methods similar to what we do, but they're in-house. They don't have dynamic descriptions, but they are trying to localize somehow. They don't have the best language models, but it is impressive at that scale.
Yes.
But what's
with millions of SKUs. And the churn in SKUs.
What's truly impressive about them is what they're doing with the discounts. Because I'm getting discounts for products that I'm watching or just eyeing. You're getting different discounts on products. They're trying it.
They're personalizing every promotion.
Bingo. The only thing that's happening right now, and I love that it's not happening for them, maybe we have a shot in Europe that building something, right? I wish I was the guy to build it. I wish anybody in Europe would build this as soon as possible, and that would be real-time discounts. So imagine this, I'm heading to a website and I'm checking out the product, whatever product selection I have or a group of products, right? And I feel like it's a little bit over budget. Screen pops off a chatbot, hey, I'm seeing, would you like all of these together would be $1,200. Bit of over budget. I'll give it to you for $800. Here's a 40% discount.
Yes.
If that were to happen in real time...
I don't know why Amazon doesn't even do this. So Amazon knows,
I don't think Amazon needs to do that. Honest to God, I don't think Amazon... No, because Amazon isn't as aggressive with Europe, right? Because right now, at least Central Europe, Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, Ukraine, right? It's in a vice. On one side, you have Temu, Shein, and a whole bunch of other Asian marketplaces. On the other side, you have Amazon and sort of pressure. So Europe is caught in a vice. I don't think that Amazon feels such a big pressure. I think that Europe as a whole is feeling a ton of pressure, and I've seen just in the news that they are looking into increasing the taxes on the imports from... That's what Europe does, it regulates, but I don't think that's the healthiest thing. I think that what we as Europeans should try at least to focus on would be, let's try to innovate, man. Let's try to be the first, because historically, I'm sure you agree with me, Europe, in terms of digital, we have lost every single major war. Right?
Yes.
There is no European big computer brand. There is no European Apple.
No.
Right? There is no Europe. Still, there used to be, but now there's not. No European phone brand. There is no European Amazon. There's no European Facebook or TikTok or right. There's nothing, man. There's no European Google.
Even from there's very few global software powerhouses that originated in Europe, except for SAP and a few standout exceptions. But other than that,
we have an amazing exception. Sorry, just for that, because I'm Romanian, I have to pop up the brand.
Of course.
UiPath, one of the first Romanian unicorns, is absolutely changing the playing field. Incredible company. Right.
Yes.
So in Europe, we don't really focus on innovation as much, and I think that we're missing. And we have structural issues with funding, with the cross-border laws, with the
GDPR, the compliance, the regulation. It's strangulating business.
So when it comes to them, to us as European taxating team and other providers out of Asia, I don't think that's going to be the answer. Maybe that's just giving European brands some breathing room,
a little bit of time,
But I really don't think that's going to be the case. Right.
And as a result, do you feel like your technology in particular is maybe more well-suited to brands in North America, say, for example, that are maybe less risk-averse and more willing to take chances and maybe more willing to adopt cutting-edge technology? Do you feel like, and for that matter, what is your current market? Is your current market primarily European merchants, or is it primarily North American merchants?
It's such a tough question, so I'm going to answer the second question and then the first question. Right now, we're live in 6 countries. We have 2 clients in US, we have a client in Latin America, we have a client in the UAE, and we're in a few European countries. But we're just starting out. Keep in mind, we're a startup, so we're a very nimble team.
Of course.
We're aggressive and ambitious, but we're still a startup. We've only been around for 7 months, right? Okay, now that being said, when it comes to who the ideal buyer would be, my thinking is, so every type of shop, whether it's a small shop that does drop shipping or it's a really large established brand or a large marketplace, everybody has a need when it comes to data personalizing. There's no denying it, right? We just address it in different ways. What I'm saying is I have a much easier time closing deals in the US, for example, even with larger enterprises, because the mindset is not really risk, because this is about risk. You can always do a pilot and you can always test out and measure the impact, right? So
that opportunity.
It's not about the risk. This is about the willingness to I would say, to innovate, right? So let's try to fix this. As I was saying, so we all have the tooth problem and we're refusing to go to the dentist, right? The Americans, they take better care of their teeth to continue with right. In Europe, we're not as fast to move on to something unless it hurts really bad. And what I've seen is that there's brands where it's truly a painful process. Look at it like this, man. I'm just telling you my story. 10 content writers. The lowest cost I could get was maybe $2,000 a month. That's 10. That's 20 grand a month. That's 250,000 a year, right?
Wow.
And how much content can one person write? Maybe 50 products a day? Maybe.
Maximum,
right? So I have an output of maximum 500 products a day. With this engine, man, I'm doing 50,000 in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And I know that they're good. Oh man, we were so scared the first time we pulled this off. It took us like a few minutes to generate a few 30-something thousand products, and a month and a half to go through them, us manually, line by line, to make sure.
Just to make sure that it was actually good.
Yeah. But to go over, I think that in Europe we have an interesting culture, a really interesting culture. In this is there's so much cross-border selling. And the culture is so different. So we're speaking one language here, 50 kilometers that away, we speak a different language, a different culture altogether. So the importance of not translating what I'm thinking in English into German, for example, because it doesn't translate in terms of culture.
It's not. It's not just translating the words.
It's how you're thinking.
It's translating the intent.
Bingo. The best example I have for this is in Romania. We have a saying called the kids with the key on the neck. It's called Generația cu cheia de gât, the generation with the key on the neck. What this is basically latchkey kids, right?
Latchkey kids, the American of a latchkey kid.
But actually, I think that the better phrasing for a latchkey kid in America would be the generation that used to drink from the water hose. Same generation,
correct.
80s and 90s. It's about the kids' autonomy and the ability to take care of themselves.
Yes.
Open the doors, close the doors, be outside on the street until late at night. Do you remember those ads at 10 p.m.? Do you know where kids are?
Yeah. You're riding your BMX bike, until the lights come on.
This is what I mean. If I'm trying to translate the key on the neck or the latch key, right? It doesn't really forebode that well. But if I'm telling to an American, your generation drank water from the water hose, It's like that. It's
a story that makes sense.
And you get the feeling, and you get the vibe, and you get the, as you were saying, the intent. And I think that's what we're missing right now. In Europe, I think that the market needs to do better localization. And I think that we have enough cross-border brands and merchants and shops and where it makes sense to have a technology like this. I think in the US, they have the same need, but the localization side of things isn't as important. I think that in the US, they focus more on personalizing that cohort of one experience, right?
Yes.
In Europe,
yes.
I think it matters less, but I think that this is only temporary.
It's probably more socioeconomic. It's probably more socioeconomic.
Yeah. And also, we always have to account for everything that's going on right now. And if you look at, China's output and power and prowess and how they essentially for Europe, and not just for Europe, because they're active in the US as well, right? Man, it's incredible. So we're in a new era. Essentially, nobody knows what the future will hold. Nobody knows.
We're in a war, right? We're effectively in a culture war. We're in a war. I think it's a war for the hearts and minds of consumers, for sure. There's no question about that. I think it's how convenience meets speed, meets content, meets experience, meets feelings. Really, when you think about these Chinese companies, their ability to understand buyer psychology, leverage buyer psychology, it is pretty scary. It's pretty phenomenal, actually.
At TikTok. TikTok is absolutely amazing at hitting that dopamine button when you're scrolling.
Unbelievable.
If I'm to do a side-by-side comparison between, let's say, Instagram and TikTok, it's obviously better in terms
There's
of
no
downloads,
comparison.
right?
There's no comparison.
And what I would like, and what we're building towards, we're not there. We're not there, but this is what we're building towards, and we're not as far as many people think. Do you remember the early days of Netflix? You would hit a couple of buttons and then really cool movie that you actually wanted to see would pop off?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Just after, what do you like? So I like Breaking Bad, and it's all right, here is some cool movies. All right, and you're watching them, they're really cool. Amazing, right? We lost that.
Yes, I agree.
My thinking is, what if e-commerce could feel that way? I'm looking at my wife as she's browsing, right, through products. For the kids, for the house, and for herself even, right? And there's a process to it, and it's a pleasure to browse, but she often becomes frustrated with it, and she can't find anything to wear. I can't find anything I actually want to buy.
Yes.
So is that, what if, as a whole, we can change that? And I think that we can. I think
so
that
when do you think we're going to get to a place, since you're deep in this, why can I not yet today? Sure, we've got AI chatbots sitting down in the corner, and I can ask a question. I type in a question, and it'll maybe give me an idea or a recommendation or whatever it is. Why can't I verbally converse with e-commerce websites? Why can't I have a concierge, the same experience when I walk into a physical retail store? Let's say it's a jewelry store, right? And
like an ad.
Why can I not, when I walk into a jewelry store, right? And I've used this example many times before. The person behind the counter doesn't just start grabbing random things and chucking it up on the counter and saying, do you like these things? They ask me a question. They say, are you shopping for yourself? Are you shopping for somebody else? Are you shopping for a gift? Are you shopping for an occasion?
Yeah.
What's your favorite metal? What's your favorite stone? What's your budget? They ask you 20 questions. And then after asking you the 20 questions, then they pull out a very targeted selection of items that they think would be matched to you. So why can I not have this same side of concierge level of service through an e-commerce website today, given the state of current GPT capabilities, verbal, and especially with GPT 4.0?
So this is not from GPT. So on one side, I'll tell you exactly. This is Gina. This is what Gina is meant to do, and I love the fact that she used the jewelry story, because we actually work with the leading jewelry brand in Europe. Stores Poland, Germany, Hungary. Yeah. Here's the thing. It's not just about the questions being asked. It's about the entire setup. It's about the atmosphere. It's about the smell. It's about the tiny volume of the music in the background and the music selection. It's
the lighting.
About the lighting. It's one of the most crucial things. There's special type of glass that you can use when you're doing the displays for the jewelry. You cannot use any type of glass. They have to have a certain tint, a certain reflection. So the level of mastery into selling a piece of jewelry and telling the story behind it and making sure that it's the right product for you requires incredible mastery of all of the senses, right? Now, that being said, here's how we've built Gina. So I'll give you just a couple of use cases for Gina that we've seen them right now in the beta. A lady comes into a store, we're not gonna name names, She says, I'm going to a cocktail party next week. I don't have anything to wear. Gina instantly fills the page with not 20 different types of selections, just a few selections just to get a feel for the user preference with a few cocktail dresses, right? User clicks on one and says, I'd like to see more on the white. Gives a few selections. User instantly finds something that they like. Just on these two interactions, just a couple of clicks, and I'm going to a cocktail party tonight. After that, Gina says, you're going to need some shoes. Here are some shoes to go with that. Already color matched, style matched, right? And that from the sizes, from the shoe size, something that was like a range of sizes that would be appropriate with the size of the dress. So the dress was a size S, the small, right? So the shoes, it took like a range of the smallest shoes.
Yes, might be size 5 to 7 instead of 8 to 12.
Right? The user then said that I don't like any of these. Completely changed the style and then figured instead of doing white on white, let's do a contrast. And it gave some, I think, yellow shoes or something like that. Client is added to basket. And then Gina came up with, let's get to some accessories, right? Not necessarily, so on the cheaper side, because the basket was already impressive, but on the cheaper side, by the selection, user said, I'm looking for something more, more classic. That was the term used by the user. And then it gave her some pearls or something like that. Bought and done. That is a session. Another session that we saw was on a computer parts store. We looked at this and we couldn't believe that it was working that well. Guy comes in and says, my kid is pestering me. I have a 14-year-old kid is pestering me. He wants to play Fortnite. I have a budget of $1,000, put something together for me so the kid can play Fortnite. The entire product did not choose a pre-built computer. The entire product selection of fitting parts,
all
with
the components,
case, with the keyboard, with the mouse,
CPU,
the monitor, everything, it comes out to $1,150, something like that. The guy says, a bit over budget, and then Gina says, here's a 20% discount, and it comes down to $950, something like that. Because in the business rules that we fed to her, you can
of course.
give.
You said you can range of discounting.
Discounts that you can give for each and every product in order to not to break into the profit margin. But it was incredible. Just really short interactions. This isn't about having somebody to hold your hand and talk to you and ask you a million questions. But somebody who has that sort of level of intuition. And what I can tell you right now is you cannot do this with GPT alone. Unfortunately, it's not enough. Maybe GPT 0.5 will have better room, better memory, and slower thinking. But if you chain multiple machines together,
then you can get it.
It's attainable. The only caveat of this, and this is what we're fighting with right now, that's why we're still not releasing it into the world yet, is it takes about 2 to 2.5 seconds to answer. And for me, that's a lot, because it doesn't feel natural. It's not...
It doesn't feel instantaneous.
Exactly. And we're still figuring that out. Maybe preload portions of the response, animate. You know how you have those pages that load some animations?
Lazy loading.
Yeah. Maybe do something like that. But right now, bare bones, for me, 2.5 seconds is way too long when I'm having a conversation. So that's where we are.
So this is the intent. The intent is to get to this place where you can have nearly a real-time concierge for e-commerce shoppers.
It's more than that. I'll give you an example. So with Dynamo, the attribute enricher, we have a whole bunch of data when it comes to photos, for example. So what we're experimenting with is generating photos using the object, the glass of water, the whatever.
Like in situ images.
But use feelings and sentiment and intention that we derive from the buyer persona. So I'll give you an example. If you're looking at shades, at glasses.
Yeah.
Put the glasses on your face, say, if I have it, or
like that.
Not an avatar that looks like you. No. Or put the glasses on a person and then send that person to the beach.
Yes.
So to have that sentiment, right? We can generate these quickly, right? We have tested out various models and we can generate photos right now within a second and a half. I think we can get better at it, right? They don't need to be the perfect photo. The product needs to be in focus, so the details behind they're all about the sentiment. The background is all about the sentiment.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And set the scene, the scenario, if you will. So yeah.
So you're going to be able to generate. So you're going to be able to dynamically generate product images.
I want to dynamically generate the entire page. I'm far from it, right? As you may see, we're building the components. This is the Legos. We have the descriptions that can change dynamically. Beautiful.
Yes.
We have the attributes that can be ranked differently based on the relevance. Another important piece. Then we have the ability to talk to you to understand your intent, what you want, and then make recommendations. Okay, we're playing with the photos, we're playing with 360 videos, we're playing with a whole bunch of components. At one point, what I want to do is, this is the holy grail, this is my, what you call it, the big whale, I forget the reference.
The big, hairy, audacious, the BHAG.
Yeah, the big hack. This is, I want the cohort of one. I want to experience that in my lifetime, and I think that the technology is there. I think that the building blocks are there. I don't think LLMs alone will get us there. I don't think Stable Diffusion alone will get us there, but it's going to get us close enough where it feels like that.
Wow, I'm absolutely blown away. This has been one of those conversations where I think I only did 5% of the talking, and I'm super happy about that, because 9 times out of 10 I have to lead the conversation. I have to lead us down a path. I have to ask a lot of additional follow-up questions to tease out insights and learnings and thinking from my guest. But in your case, I can just let you go, and you're so knowledgeable, you're so passionate, you are so deep into these topics that I really don't have to ask too many questions. Like I can ask one half question, and then we can be off to the races on a 10-minute conversation, which I absolutely love. So I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed about your knowledge. I'm very impressed about the technology that you not only have built, but are building, and the future of the experiences that you're trying to create for consumers and the merchants that sell to them. This is it's a brave new world. I think that phrase is heavily overused today in relation to AI, but this definitely does start to get us closer to that holy grail of customer experience being one-to-one and dynamic in real time. I think that we're not there yet, but we're tantalizingly close. We're tasting it. We can smell it. We can smell it. We can taste it. It's close enough.
If I can come back to something, to one of the observations you've made earlier, think about it like this. If we're looking at the Chinese engine, if you will, with Temu and all of these guys, right? Because it's not just Temu, it's China, it's Alibaba, AliExpress, it's all of them, right? They're incredible, man. Their algos are incredible when it comes to, on one side, how well their processes are designed where they can go cheaper than anybody else, right? And this is not just about manpower, because I don't think it's the case anymore. Outsourcing to manufacturing to China, I don't think it's cheaper than any place on the world anymore. I think we've left that world behind.
Yeah, because of inflation, it's now at near parity.
Right. So right now, what they have on top of everybody else is, I think, processes at scale, right? I think that's what they're doing better than most of us.
Than even the Americans, and historically, the Americans were the best at processes in the world.
Yes. So what we have now is exactly this story: is how can I emulate the smell that you feel whenever you're going to the jewelry shop, right? How can I better emulate that experience? We've chased the omni-channel pony all out through COVID. Everybody was doing websites, everybody was digitizing, the budgets were amazing, the interest rates were low, the investments were through the roof, right? The hiring, man.
The TAM was unlimited,
yes,
and so therefore the investment was unlimited.
So now we're coming off of that, right? So we're seeing firing at scale, we're seeing e-com teams being broken apart, right? And I only have one question. That's why I'm trying to break this down for myself. Is whenever it comes to businesses that are absolutely unshakable, and I really mean unshakable. Let's leave the utilities aside. Who prospered even during the worst downturns of the economy, even during wars or whatever? Brands, actual brands. So you've had jewelry store and high fashion houses and
the Nikes of the world. No?
Right.
It's the household names.
No matter what happened, they prospered. Even if they weren't growing as much, or maybe stagnating for a couple of years, right?
Yes.
But they never died, because it's impossible to kill something where people can resonate, because you stand for something as a brand, you have a story, you have a lot of stuff. But the question is, if we are to let's look across the board. Out of 90 vendors, how many of them have a story? How many of them have a brand? What does it mean to have a brand? How does a brand feel like on the website?
It would probably be 2 out of 100, 3 out of 100.
So if you're looking at who's going to get shaken up by the, as you said, the cultural process wars from the East, I think it's them. I think it's people who have not put together brands. And brands aren't about processes, they're about the stories you tell yourself.
And they're about the feeling you generate.
Exactly. Right? And I don't know about you, but me personally, after the entire journey we've been on the past almost 5 years now, it's how the hell can you have a sterile page? The same pictures that everybody else, the copy-pasted descriptions from the suppliers, no story, no nothing. What are you going to fight with?
How does that build a brand? How does that build a brand? It doesn't.
And Yeah, try to put together SEO or storytelling or TikTok campaigns on that. See how well it does. And this is what
You can't.
I think
Nobody's going to be interested.
No. Look, let's be honest. I think that some success will be had, right? You spend some money, right? You make some ads. I think some success will be had. The question is, how much of this success can you actually retain, and how much of this success is actually an investment, or can be invested in what you're
or how much of that investment can be turned into a sustainable moat? I think that's the question.
Couldn't have phrased it better.
Listen, Christian, this has been mind-blowing, mind-bending, mind-boggling, and it's been fun, and it's been enjoyable. Look, man, you are quite the character, and I love it, and I'm here for it. And I'm so impressed with what you guys have done and built in such a short period of time. I know you've been at this longer than the official startup phase of this business, but the reality is you guys are clearly visionaries. You clearly want to see things in the world that do not yet exist today, and I am always going to be a cheerleader for people like you building technology like you are building, because I think the world needs more of it, not less of it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I just have one thing to say. Naratix is not a product that should have existed. We've built it out of spite and pure hate for the pain we've had to go through and the money we've lost along the way. I'm serious. Nobody wanted to build this, man. Not me nor the team. But sometimes you're forced into a corner and you have to fight your way out.
And it sounds like you have, and you're continuing to fight, and I love that. And I love the passion that's behind it. So, listen, I'm going to drop a link to your LinkedIn profile and to Naratix in the show notes. Other than that, how do you like people to get a hold of you if they want to talk about this whole content, commerce experience thing?
Everybody can talk to us. We're easy to find. Just Google us, LinkedIn us. We're all here, and we're excited to talk to everybody. Everybody has to have something good to some insight or something. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Now, listen, as we come down to the end of our time together, and it makes me slightly sad that we're coming down to the end of our time together, but we will have more conversations. Don't you worry about that. But now is the opportunity for me to flip the script, turn the microphone over to you, let you ask me one question, any question you like. It can be personal or professional. So, Cris, Chanu from Naratix, what is your question?
So, here's the thing. I've listened to not too many, I think 3 episodes of your podcast since last night, right? And I've read your bio and read your story. I have one question for you, and that is, what do you think is the biggest shift happening in e-commerce right now that nobody's seeing, that nobody's watching? Because what's your instinct telling you? And this doesn't need to be rational, just a gut feeling, but what is it?
So I've been talking about it since 2017, and almost no one is listening to me. And I wrote an article on LinkedIn in 2017 titled, I coined a new term, right? I coined a new term called stealth commerce, which is that in the future, most e-commerce transactions would happen without the consumer realizing and recognizing it and treating it as a transaction. What I mean by that is, we are going to have so much automation in the future of our lives, and our clothes and our pantries and our fridges and our vehicles and everything we use is going to be smart and so net connected that transactions will happen without us. We will pre-authorize an experience as opposed to authorizing individual transactions. And what I mean by this is, for example, let's say I'm like you. I hate shopping. I hate physical shopping. I do 99% of my shopping online because I hate the process of shopping, and I want to make it as easy and quick and painless and cheap as possible, right? My wife, she actually enjoys shopping. She loves to go to the physical stores, and she likes to look at things, and she likes to try things on, and all that sort of stuff. I think it's maybe it's a guy versus girl thing, but I'm generalizing here, but a lot of us, maybe it's a tech bro thing, I don't know, but a lot of us like to minimize the pain of shopping, right? Any way we can. I think in the future, we're going to have our clothes are going to be smart. So, for example, my wardrobe is going to be smart. So I'm going to have IoT chips wired into my clothing, right? Those chips are going to be able to know how many times that piece of clothing has been washed. They're going to understand how threadbare that piece of clothing is and when it needs to be replaced. It's going to automatically going to communicate with via the net. It's going to automatically communicate with our predefined selection of suppliers or retailers. And I'm going to say at all times, I want 5 pair of wearable Levi's 501s or whatever it is in my
Yeah.
wardrobe at all times. And when one or two or three of those pairs become threadbare, automatically that order is going to be placed with my preferred supplier, and it's just going to turn up at my doorstep. I will have already have my digital wallet, I'll have my payment saved, I'll have my address saved, everything else, and it's just going to happen. There is going to be, in the future, the vast majority of retail transactions are just going to happen, and it's going to be the same with my vehicle. You know, when my car needs its oil changed, it's going to trigger off a communication with the internet. My favorite supplier of oil and filter and everything else, it's going to be automatically sent to my preferred mechanic, and eventually it's going to drive itself there, get the oil changed, and then drive it back home again. This is where stealth commerce is going. And so, sure, there's still going to be room for surprise and delight for people like my wife that just want to browse and be inspired and enjoy the shopping experience. But for of us that just want the vast majority of transactions in our life to be automated, that is stealth commerce, and that is going to be enabled by AI, IoT, and basically everything being smartified.
I'd love to share some thoughts with this, man. First off, I really hate the idea of having my computer shop for me. But I also can wholeheartedly say there's no avoiding it. It's exactly what will probably happen. I think that the regular stuff, the consumables, get milk, get eggs, get whatever, yeah, I don't need to know about that. I really don't need to know about that. I also have a vision of, I'm not sure if it will happen through AI assistance, GPT to GPT, or hey, order me some, right? Maybe it will be voice. Well, what I'm thinking is something that was quite quite popular as a concept, as an idea back in 2016, 2017, was the idea that when you're watching a movie, hey, hang on, I like that shirt.
Yeah, boom, I want that shirt. That's cool. Just find it for me. And
it's an interesting time to be alive, I'll tell you that.
It certainly is. It's slightly scary, but also super exciting in the same breath. Cris, this has been a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed our time together. Can't wait to speak to you again soon, my friend. Have a great day.
Same here, Jason. Thanks.
Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.